Welcome, everyone. I am Heather Briere, Director of Learning and Leadership Programs at the League, and welcome to the 2025 Conference Preview event just for students like you. We are excited to have conference this year, June 11th to the 13th in Salt Lake City, Utah. Today, we're going to have my colleague David Stiers kind of walk us through the big themes of conference, the big performances, networking opportunities, affinity group gatherings. We will talk about conference orientation a little bit, and then I'm going to talk us through the student experience in particular. So our meeting topics and agenda, student membership and registration offers to help get yourself to conference. Then we're going to hand things off to two members of our student leadership team, Megan Rasmussen and Lauren Green. They will walk us through, how do you get the most out of a league conference experience? What funding opportunities might there be within your school to get you to Salt Lake City? And Megan is from Utah, so she can tell us what are the greatest things to do around town? Where can you how to get around town, where to stay, that might be a little more affordable than our conference hotel. So that is our plan. And I will hand things over to David. Take it away.
Great. Thank you so much, Heather. It's a pleasure to be with everyone today. And we are so excited about our national conference coming up in Salt Lake City. It'll be our 80th national conference, which is hard to believe. And my very first League National Conference was its 50th, which is even more hard to believe, anniversary of the League, which was in 1992. So 33 years ago, when I had just graduated from college, I went to my first League conference a couple of weeks after graduation. And because of going to that conference, I got my first job at the League of American Orchestras. There was an opening, I applied, and I would not be at the League today, probably had I not gone to that conference. And I worked at the League for 7 years in Washington, D.C., was gone for 20 years after the League moved to New York City, and I've been back at the League since 2020 as the other Director of Learning and Leadership Programs. And part of my role at the League is to oversee the content development for the conference. It's very much a all hands on deck team effort for everyone on staff to work on our conference, but it's a pleasure to serve as a focal point for all the different activities and speakers and sessions. And I just want to give a quick walkthrough of the different activities that will be happening. If you haven't seen it yet, I wrote an article for our symphony.org website, and I'll put it in the chat that gives sort of a textual description of the conference. So if you're looking at applying for potential funding to attend a conference or explain to someone what you're wanting to do by going to Salt Lake City, this article may give you a good bit of information about it. And the article is titled Ascend, which is the theme of this year's conference, which is very appropriate for those who have not yet been to Salt Lake City. And those of you who have been, you will know that downtown is surrounded by the Wasatch Mountains, and it's one of the most beautiful settings of any place in the country. And this is the first year we've ever had the conference in Salt Lake City, and we're so excited to have the Utah Symphony and Utah Opera hosting us. And the Utah Symphony, Utah Opera is historically a very renowned symphony in the United States, particularly somewhat from its growth under the direction of Maurice Abravanel. And the concert hall is named for their former music director, Maurice Abravanel. And there was a book written about 55 years ago called Orpheus in the New World. And I'll put it in the chat by Philip Hart. And it's the history of American orchestras, basically from the beginning of the New York Philharmonic in about 1842 up until about 1970. And there's a whole chapter on the Utah Symphony and Maurice Abravanel's 30-year tenure in growing and building that orchestra. And so he was a remarkable conductor, and so it's a remarkable legacy that that orchestra has been embedded into the city of Salt Lake City. And so we are excited to be celebrating that as well. The conference is, again, the annual event of the league that brings together the entire orchestra field and all of our friends. So it's not just professionals and staff and board members and conductors and musicians and volunteers from orchestras, but it's also other people who love orchestras, composers, artistic managers, acousticians, publishers, lots of our business partners, and students. And so you're a very important part of our conference experience. And I'll share my screen and sort of walk through what our 3 days in Salt Lake City will look like. And we will have the opportunity to go into more detail about your own particular agendas as we look through the schedule. But leagueconference.org is our website. And so hopefully, if you have not found it yet, you will see all the details. And I've gone to the full schedule, which lays out everything happening at the conference. And so beginning on that Tuesday, June the 10th, we consider that sort of our pre-conference day. And I'll draw your attention to 2 of our pre-conference seminars. One is on negotiations, and this seminar got a little bit complicated in that it was being presented by the federal agency, the Federal Mediation and Conciliatory Services, which has been eliminated. And so we have been able to salvage this pre-conference seminar with some of the former federal mediators still delivering it. If you have an interest in this, you can register before April 24th for $45. But if after April 24th, it goes up to $310 for league members and $385 for non-members. But if you have an interest in this topic, $45 between now and April 24th. And we also are doing a second seminar that our president CEO, Simon Woods, is leading on strategic planning. That one is at the rate of $310 for league members, $385 for non-members, if either of those topics are of interest. For those coming in on Tuesday, there is also a concert that evening in the aviary in Salt Lake City, where there will be bird shows and food trucks and wonderful entertainment led by Clarissa Saad with her friends Laura Downs and Lisa Lawyer. And this is being presented by Cadenza Artists, which has put this together. And this concert is only $45, and that includes your ticket, your transportation, and your food, drink, beverage, and everything. So that will be Tuesday evening. Then on Wednesday, we've had a tradition now of several years doing a tech fair. And so we encourage people to learn about, after breakfast, all the different technology platforms. So I said there's lots of people who want to provide support to our orchestras, and orchestras cannot exist without technologies, from database systems, ticketing, all the different new apps and technologies to use in concert halls. So this is a free tech fair for anyone registered for the conference, and there'll be exhibits and presentations. So if you have interest in all the technologies that power orchestras and will help change them in the future, our tech fair is an opportunity to see that. Again, we have an amazing exhibit hall area, about 80 different exhibitors, again, all different businesses, and encourage you to be sure to check out the exhibit hall. And not only is it lots of great information, many of them have great swag, candies, pins, fans, and everyone tries to compete who has the best swag. So lots of good reasons to stop by and visit our exhibitors. We'll have a first-timer gathering. So if this is your first time at the conference, please join me from 12:30 to 1, and we'll help you get to meet several people. We have about a third of the delegates who this is their first time ever attending the conference. So we have a pretty high level of people who come for the first time. And so we want to help them this year do something new by getting to know each other quickly. And then you'll go into your constituency meetings with your fellow students first thing in the afternoon, followed by an all-delegate reception in the exhibit hall. Again, we're encouraging people to meet our exhibitors and socialize with one another. And we know that networking is the #1 reason people come to our conference. The then opening session will be just down the street from the Hyatt Regency, the conference headquarters, at the Maurice Abravanel Hall. And we're thrilled this year to be giving our highest award, our gold baton, to Maren Alsop, who many of you know for her many years as the music director of the Baltimore Symphony Orchestra and is an amazing conductor across the world today. And our opening keynote address will be by Renee Fleming, and we're thrilled to have her with us talking about music in mind and her champion of the health benefits that music can bring. And there'll be also a youth orchestra performance. They'll be featuring 2 world premieres, one by Clarissa Saad, who will also be performing, and another by the young composer Quinn Mason, who will also be conducting. So we're very excited to have these 2 world premieres at our opening session with the Utah Youth Symphony. Then that evening, our first of our affinity group meetings will be our LGBTQI+ reception, which again, we're thrilled to have Clarissa Saad as our VIP for that. And so an opportunity to meet other colleagues around the conference. We've been averaging about 75 or so at that reception the past couple of years. And then we'll be having other networking events to be determined that evening as well. Then the full day on Thursday of the conference, lots of sessions beginning in the morning from 9 to 10:15 with several sessions from our business partners that are tagged business perspectives. Then we have another block of sessions after a networking break, another good opportunity to check out the exhibit hall. That we'll have sessions again from 11 to 12:15. Renee Fleming's actually going to be doing one of these sessions for us, so you can look at all the details for the sessions in the website. There'll be a lunch break from 12:15 to 1:45, where we'll be having our Lana Affinity Group lunch. So anyone who would like to join, particularly in solidarity with African, Latinx, Asian, Arab, Middle Eastern, and Native American descent, welcome to join that lunch. And then again, more sessions and critical conversations in the afternoon. And there's about 5-6 sessions per time block. And then finally, the second constituency meeting block from 3:30 to 5:30. And again, Heather will go over your constituency agenda for students in a moment. And then after a dinner break, there will be the Utah Symphony concert that evening, the pre-concert lecture, followed by a concert that features the Korngold Violin Concerto, as well as T-Neck, Gabriel Ortiz piece, and other wonderful music. And the Maurice Abravanel Hall came under lots of headlines a year ago with the possibility of being torn down. And happily, it was saved actually by the musicians of the orchestra who had it declared a historic property. And so the hall was built in 1979 and is one of many consider acoustically best halls in this country. Some rank it in the top 4 to 5 best concert halls acoustically. And so hopefully we have discounted student tickets for that as well, if of interest. But then afterwards is the tune-up party, and everyone attends the tune-up party, whether you come to the concert or not, that the Utah Symphony will be hosting right outside in the plaza in front of the hall. And the hall is like 2 blocks from the hotel, so everything is very conveniently located in downtown Salt Lake City. Finally, on Friday morning, we'll have an exhibit hours, again, and a coffee in the exhibit area, final set of sessions, and then your final constituency meetings after a final networking break to wrap up your conference experience. And then we close the conference with a luncheon. And this year, our luncheon will include both our annual meeting, and it will also feature the wonderful composer and clarinetist Keenan Osmond in conversation with the President CEO of the San Diego Symphony, Martha Gilmer, talking about home, freedom, and belonging. So we're very excited to have Keenan as our closing, and he'll also be performing as well. So that is the scope of the conference. Will be done by 1:30 that afternoon, and the conference will close with the sort of passing of the baton from Salt Lake City to Baltimore. So as you're maybe even thinking about plans for June of 2026, we will be in Baltimore with Baltimore Symphony Orchestra hosting us June 1st to the 3rd of 2026. So I will stop there with that sort of whirlwind overview of this year's conference, and look forward to hopefully seeing many of you there. And if anyone has any questions about the conference at any time, don't hesitate to be in touch with us at the League, and we'll look forward to answering your questions and again being there and seeing you in June. I'll turn it back to you, Heather. Thank you.
Thank you so much, David. It's always wonderful to invite David in to share those greater themes of conference. I'm happy to share, the more student-specific things, as I am student constituency liaison at the League. So like David mentioned, on that Wednesday, if it's your first time coming to a conference, I highly recommend this first-timer gathering. It's going to really help orient you to 3 intense days of learning, of networking, of community building. So definitely check that out. So our conference proper begins at 1 o'clock on that Wednesday afternoon. We're going to have our first 20 minutes where we're going to talk about, just meet each other and hear from students how they maximize their conference experience. So we'll do a fun little icebreaker activity during that as well. So you can start to make some friends in this conference, because we realize many of you are coming for the first time and you might not know a single soul in that 1,200 plus delegates that are going to be at conference. So it's great when you can start meeting people in your own constituency first, and then you can go out and be brave and meet other constituency members that are attending afterwards. At 1:20, we will turn our attention to a little bit of a preview of what we're going to do on Friday morning. So we're going to discuss, how do you break into decision-making experiences? And more specifically, once you do get a seat at those tables, how do you kind of bring up insights and ideas that might challenge traditional ways? So that's just a little sneak peek of what we'll be talking about in a cross-constituency session on Friday morning. At 1:30, we will have an orchestra management and career panel where you'll get to hear, how in the world do orchestras operate? What are the various departments within an orchestra? How are they structured? And it can look very different for, large orchestras versus small versus youth orchestras. But you'll hear, what are the roles that are common in all of them, and how do they succeed? Then we're going to meet probably 5 or 6 panelists from a variety of different roles in the orchestra field and hear their career journeys and advice for success in this field. When we come together on Thursday, we will have 2 hours in the afternoon from 3:30 to 5:30. We'll start with a conversation on maintaining mental and physical health in music, because we know that is just so important to your career longevity and happiness. Then we're going to jump into a facilitated workshop where the student constituency gets to envision the American orchestras of the future. So it's going to kick off a year of some really exciting student programming that we're going to have, via Zooms, through various projects that you can get involved in. But this first, hour-long workshop is just exploring orchestra's missions, their roles in their communities, key challenges and opportunities that, we're all experiencing or might be very particular to your community, and just some really innovative approaches that are coming up. And then we're going to just dream a little bit and envision, if we didn't have to sell tickets every day, if we didn't, rely on, fundraising and performing those classics, what would the ideal American orchestra look like? So that's going to be a really fun workshop, I think, to be a part of. We'll have a really quick break. And then Simon Woods, the president and CEO of the league, is going to join us, where he's going to share some of his insight, from his view on the opportunities and challenges facing orchestras today, how orchestras are navigating the changing policy and advocacy landscape. And then we're going to join in conversation with him about what came out of our workshop. What are we excited to do in the next year to envision the ideal orchestra of the future and what it'll take to get us there? After that conversation and long day of conference, we are so going to be ready to go to a student constituency dinner, and more information about that will be coming soon. So keep checking the website. But we'll meet in the hotel lobby and grab a nice dinner together as a group, and then go to that concert and/or tune-up party. And I will say, that when you register for conference, there's an incredible low price student concert ticket deal. And when you purchase tickets in that way, you will be seated with other students coming to conference. So you'll already know some of the people you'll be sitting around. On Friday morning, we have more general all delegate sessions. And then we're going to come together at 10:15 in the student constituency to have a cross constituency session with the general managers and operations directors. And it's going to be about intergenerational communication and collaboration, because we realize these days you can easily have 3 generations worth of workers trying to collaborate. So how can we collaborate and communicate in ways that foster productivity and really help us all succeed? And then in our final half an hour, we will kind of reflect on our 3 days. What have we learned? What are we still curious about? How are we going to stay connected with those we've met over the 3 days? And we'll start to talk about what events do we want to do as a student constituency over Zoom, and what projects do we want to do together during the 2025-2026 membership year. All right, so that is the student constituency agenda. I just put into the chat box 2 links that are going to be really important to you if you're considering joining us at conference. So leagueconference.org/students is kind of your home base. It's where you can go to learn more about conference. In a few days, we will have the student constituency agenda up there, so you'll be able to see it there. And you can there's 2 buttons on that page. You can let me share my screen again for that. You can either choose to register for conference right away if you're already a member, or if you're not quite a member yet, you can join the league. And the league has 2 student membership prices, and the first is free. So there is no reason not to become a member in my eyes, because you get access to so many great resources and a network of students and young professionals just like you, kind of navigating, where do I fit into the orchestra field? So if you're already a member, you register now. If you're not yet a member, come join us. Membership levels are free and $80 a year. If you're already a member, you can register for free. We have limited first come, first serve complimentary student registrations through April 24th. So 10 days from now, we do hope you're able to join us. When we run out of those free registrations, or after April 24th, students can attend at a really deeply discounted rate of $250. So $250 to invest in yourself and your future career. We really hope you'll consider that. I do want to mention that if you are under the age of 18 years old, we do ask that you have an adult chaperone come to conference with you and remain with you at all times. And those parents parent guardian chaperones are complimentary as well. So if you start your registration and share that you're under 18, it'll ask who your adult is that will be attending conference with you. All right. I think that was it for my portion. So I want to hand things over to Megan and to Lauren. Maybe first, Lauren, do you want to share with us kind of your journey with the league and, you know, how you get the most out of coming to these league conferences?
Sure, sure. I'm sure I encountered the league way earlier in my education. I just don't remember it. But I think what I do remember for sure is my first conference ever for the league was 2022 or 2023. I think maybe it was 2023. Um, and I went because I was currently, at the time, I was a fellow with the Seattle Symphony, and the league conference is like Symphony Orchestra's like go-to yearly conference. And so there was maybe we can all go. And that's kind of what happened for a group of us. And I got to go to conference for the first time. And that same year, I also was able to do a program with the league, the Essentials of Orchestral Management program, which is a program that's held at Juilliard over the summer, which is really lovely. And basically from there, I stayed with the league on as a student council member that next year, and now I'm returning as well. So it's kind of hard to remember exactly how and when because so many things happened at the same time with me, coming on board. But I remember I think one of the big reasons as to why, as a student, I was curious about the league was it was around the time where, in general, I was beginning to be very curious about arts administration in general and how organizations run and work themselves. This was where I like graduated COVID 20 like in 2020 um, undergrad, and I had a whole mental shift of I'm interested in doing stuff beyond teaching and performing, and for me that was arts admin. And so the league kind of came in around that time already, for me, of just learning what things were, and going to conferences is something as a student I learned very early was very beneficial for personal development. It can be like, challenging in some ways because you may feel like you go there and you like don't know what to do, or maybe you like want to go, but no one else wants to go with you. And I think I just really leaned into it. And I knew that when I get there, I'll meet people. Thankfully, I was able to get funding opportunities from school as a student, either through like the School of Music or College of the Arts or the General School Fund, especially for grad students. There's always like conference funding somewhere. Um, and so, yeah, it just is something that I found very beneficial for myself as an individual. And I always encourage students to just go to conference, see if there's anyone who you'd like to meet there, and like maybe ask if they have 30 minutes to like chat over coffee, or if they have more time lunch, just to like get to know people a little bit more. Yeah, and just be really open-minded to what's going on. It's a lot. I will say that it can be very overwhelming going to conference for the first time because there's so much information and you're not exactly sure what is relevant to you in that moment and what may be relevant later on. Um, Take notes is what I would say, and just hang on to people's information maybe for later on. But it's what you make it. It can be unbeneficial and it can be really beneficial. So I would just say if you're gonna come, really lean into it, ask people, what they're doing, and maybe you can like tag on to certain things, and maybe you can choose your own adventure as well. So
Thank you, Lauren. Yeah, I feel like Lauren and so many other students who've come to conference in the past few years, I've heard so many success stories of people who just decided to get up early and show up to that coffee networking break, and before you know it, they have an interview, and then they have their first internship or part or full-time job in the orchestra field, and it's always so gratifying for me to hear those success stories of them just choosing to invest in themselves for 3 days, and they get, the starting of a wonderful career out of it. All right. I want to turn things over to Megan to kind of share a little bit more about, Megan hasn't been to a league conference yet. This will be her first, but she is from the great state of Utah. So, Megan, what are you most looking forward to in conference? What are you excited to share about Salt Lake City with the rest of the students that are attending conference? We'd love your thoughts on how do you get around the city, like can't miss, museums and hikes and all sorts of things that are in your great city.
Absolutely. Yeah, as Heather said, this will be my first League conference, but I am super excited to especially meet all the other students interested in orchestral management. And I'm really excited to build my network and just really get to know so many of the amazing people. Everybody I've worked with at the League is amazing, and everybody I've met in this field of work is incredible. So I'm really excited. And there's so much happening in this field right now. So the opportunity to be involved in that and participate is just a dream come true. As for the conference being in Utah, I am super excited about that. I am biased, but I believe that Salt Lake and Utah is just one of the prettiest places in the country. As David mentioned earlier, we have beautiful mountains. That's the first thing you see when you walk out of the airport. These are mountains. We're just surrounded. And they're very close. It's only a 30-minute drive to in any direction, basically, and you get to mountains. So it's really wonderful. There's lots of hikes if you're interested in that. And we do have a really great public transportation system of buses and trains and trolleys around the city and around the area that is really affordable. We have a train directly to the city center from the airport that's only $2.50 for a one-way fare, so very, very affordable. And in downtown Salt Lake, where this conference will be held, is a free fare zone. So it is completely free to use any public transportation in downtown Salt Lake. We're working on getting some information compiled about more of this that we're going to share with you guys. We're really excited about, but there is a lot of options. We have Uber and Lyft bikes and scooters, and it's very walkable. Within less than a mile, we've got dozens of restaurants and shopping. Across the street from Abravanel Hall is the City Creek Mall, which is a two-city block, two-level mall that has, I don't even know how many, at least 100 stores and food court, restaurants, lots of options there. But we also have a lot of little local restaurants dotted throughout the area that are very close, very walkable. And like Lauren said, I would really encourage you to go through your university and see what funding is available. I know I have done that myself, and there's always funding available. However, sometimes that funding cannot go as far as you would like it to. So also in the downtown area, within just a couple blocks of the conference center, are several other living options. The Radisson Hotel is it's 2 blocks away from Abravanel, and that is much cheaper. There's other hotels in the area, there's Airbnb, and even if you get a hotel that's a little cheaper, that's a little farther away, again, our public transportation is very reliable and very cheap. So that's really something I would encourage you to look into as an option for saving some money, because I also understand that it's an issue for people in our stage of life. There's a lot of things to do in Salt Lake, and we have museums. We have museums of art, natural history. We have a planetarium that's just a couple blocks away that's completely free to just go look around and learn about science if that's what you're interested in. And lots of shopping. Nearby, we have a zoo and an aviary in Salt Lake City that is reachable by our public transportation system. Those are really cool. And just a couple blocks away, if you're interested in looking at some cool buildings, we have Temple Square, which is where we have a lot of religious buildings. It's a very religious community in many ways, but we're very welcoming, and we want to share the beauty and amazing area that we have with everyone. And again, we will be sharing all of this information again with you shortly. We're just getting ready to compile that, and I'm really excited to send that out. And I think that is what I'm most excited about. And I'm just really excited to share Salt Lake. I do really, truly believe that it is such a beautiful area. And as David mentioned, especially at Bravenel Hall, I have been in that hall. I've worked with the symphony, and it is gorgeous. It is a wonderful space. And all of Salt Lake is excited to have everyone come.
Thank you so much, Megan and Lauren, for sharing that student experience. We also have another member of our student leadership team with us who is a local. Paul, would you like to say anything about, how you maximize your conference experiences, what you're most looking forward to in the League conference, and anything else that Megan may have left out about Salt Lake City? Thank you for such a thorough and welcome to your great city. There was one thing that I thought of that I did want to make sure to mention during this. Delta Airlines is pleased to provide a discount to those attending the League National Conference. So if you have to fly in, if you go to leagueconference.org/hotels and venues, that will give you all the information you need to know to save a few bucks there. But Paul, please take it away.
Sure thing. So I'm joining a little bit late, so I actually don't know what has been mentioned so far. But in regards to the conference and kind of preparing for that for myself, this will be my first conference as well as maybe many other student constituency members. One of the things that I'm doing to kind of prepare is to start like looking ahead of time at people I may want to find and want to talk to, kind of building a list of people who I could reach out to during conference, hoping to find them. I think eventually we'll have access to a list of everybody who's coming, and we can find those people and make sure that they're coming. And so that's what I'm currently working on, finding people in administrative positions that I'm interested in talking to, from executive leaders, development personnel, all sorts of people, just building a list of people I want to make contact with, I think is a great way to prepare. I'm also in the process of just putting together some simple business cards for myself, just to, get my name into people's hands. They have my contact information and things like that, just to make kind of some connections but also getting to know people ahead of time, so what they might be able to talk to you about, if they might be welcoming to conversations and things like that. So those are a couple of things that I'm doing ahead of time to prepare myself kind of professionally for the conference. As we get the schedule all put together and, eventually when the full schedule comes out, kind of seeing what all events are going on, what, I may want to attend when I'm not in the student constituency meetings, and just really trying to plan everything out ahead of time to bring down the stress as much as possible during those couple of days. But other than that, I'm just really excited to meet a lot of people in kind of a similar position as me, same age, roughly, and getting to know a bunch of the people who are going to be my kind of this cohort of people as we grow in this career together, and building this network even within just ourselves is what I'm super excited for.
Wonderful. Thank you, Paul. And you alluded to two things that we had left out that were very important. So later this spring on leagueconference.org, they will have a who's coming to conference document that'll be updated usually on Mondays. And usually they will start posting those in early May. So you can start looking who's coming to conference. You can start, making that wish list of people that you're hoping to connect with while you're in Salt Lake City. And they'll also have the conference app will launch usually sometime in May. And you can start, connecting with people on the app. You could always look them in, up in LinkedIn, send them a little note and say, hey, would you have 10 minutes during, this break time to grab some coffee, to walk around the block and just to get to know each other? You might, maybe you do something that I really aspire to, and I'd love to learn how you got to where you are today. So I highly encourage you check out those resources once they become available.
And on
Well, I
May
think go
I just
ahead,
want to add
David.
on Wednesday, May the 21st, we're having for the first time a virtual orientation to the conference for people who have registered and for people still thinking about registering, to give more tips around what's happening, name badges, registering, etc. And so feel free to join us then on May 21st. But again, the app will be another important place to be able to connect directly with people through the app. And we're also looking at what are different technologies we might use for digital business cards. Certainly you can have paper, but if you haven't updated your LinkedIn profile, that's another great way through the LinkedIn app to connect with people on site as well.
Thanks, David. And just to say also, the student constituency, we will have our own meet and greet Zoom event in the month of May, just to get to know each other a little bit before we all arrive in Salt Lake City. So once we have a date and time for that, we will definitely send out messages to make sure everyone is aware and we can join in and start sharing some of our plans of student-only gatherings and, who's looking to potentially, who's landing at the airport around the same time and wants to travel to the hotel together, who might want to share an Airbnb or VRBO, things like that. So I think that's it for today. So thank you all so much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you June 11th to 13th in Salt Lake City. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you all. See you in June. Bye-bye.